and welcome to the Way of the Illuminated Warrior interview series. My name is Waska, and I am the host of this show, and it's my pleasure to be here today with you to introduce yet another one of our wonderful speakers and wisdom keepers. Today's guest is Glenn Ambrose, and Glenn's philosophy is that happiness and fulfillment are there for you to have and are attainable by anyone. Glenn's a life coach, a spiritual teacher, an inspirational speaker, and the host of the podcast, Life, Lessons, and Laughter with Glenn Ambrose. Combining his coaching skills with his finely tuned style of getting to the heart of the matter, he inspires the change that is necessary for truly successful living. And Glenn is known for his passion, enthusiasm, and ability to see things from a clear perspective, thereby giving him the aptitude to help guide people to an effective path for their own self-discovery and happiness. He uplifts others to come out of their place of complacency or suffering and experience the levels of contentment and joy that are possible. So it's my pleasure to welcome my new friend, Glenn.
Wow, that was a beautiful intro.
Sounded good, right?
Yeah, that was wonderful.
That's you, bro. That's you.
That's very impressive. I like that guy.
Yeah, me too. Me too. He's a cool dude. So, Glenn, I'm really happy to have you on, and I want you to share your journey with the viewers, like how you started off, like even going back to when you were a young guy, and what your experiences were that you believe led you to be doing this transformational work for others.
Sure. It's hindsight's 20/20. So, when I look back at my younger years, I look back through different eyes, so I see it differently. And I can kind of see that there were things that that people used to come to me for advice, and I was like, why are they coming to me for advice? My life's a mess, So it was little things like that. That's like, oh, geez, maybe you were meant to be a life coach, But I mean, I grew up in a good family, a very good family, actually, which is different than a lot of other people on spiritual paths that I know. And at first, when I woke up like 15 years ago, I was kind of wondering, like, am I the weakest person on the planet? Like, I couldn't even handle growing up in a good family. And what finally looking into it, I finally understood that it wasn't so much, growing up in a good family or a bad family for me. It was just that, like, I liken it to that book, The 5 Love Languages. So just the mentality that different people connect in different ways. And my parents and my sister obviously had a very strong connection. And I kind of spoke a different love language. So I had difficulty connecting with them in the same way that they connected with each other. So I kind of felt like I was on the outside. So I grew up like that. And there was a lot of just typical ADHD stuff. In school, it was like, Glenn, turn around. Glenn, stop entertaining the class. Glenn, stop. Glenn. And I heard my name 500 times a day, So by the time I hit junior high, I had some low self-esteem because of these things, So I kind of started deciding to take a different path. And that was it, man. I broke left hard. And, I started getting in trouble, and I noticed that my life really didn't change much because I was always in trouble anyway. So why don't I have some fun and get in trouble, So which was really dangerous, because at that moment I lost my fear of consequences, because I was basically facing these consequences anyway. So I was just running around, and I kind of really embraced that, and I got really good at being really bad. Then I found alcohol, and that was love at first taste. So I ran with that for 20 years. And then really the shifting point for me came, like I said, like 15 years ago, when I had pulled myself together and I got married and had my son and bought a house and started my own business and had a new car and a driveway. And I had never been able to hold myself together that well. And I realized that I was more unhappy than when I was living like an alcoholic loser. And I was like, oh no. Like I could understand why I was unhappy when I was drinking all the time and doing nothing with my life, because, that's expected. But I thought if I did everything that I was supposed to, and now, let's be honest, I was still drinking at this time, but I had pulled myself together enough to accomplish all that stuff. And I was even more unhappy. And I was like, oh no, now what? Now, I can survive failure, but how do I survive success?
Yeah.
So that began my final spiral for 2 years. And fortunately, I ended up at the end of that getting sober and having some very huge spiritual awakenings, which is really just change of perspectives, shifts of perception. And everything opened up dramatically in a 3-month period. And I don't remember anything after that.
Wow. Yeah, and here you are today. Yeah, isn't it? It's amazing. And the more work that I do with the guys, it's so much more common and prevalent, really. These stories who share a very, very familiar and similar thread, like why do we have such low self-worth? Why do we, go to these dark places? Why do we look for substances or something, anything to help us to get through, to feel wanted, to feel worthy, to feel empowered? And I think it's maybe part of the times that we grew up in, whether our parents or whatever role models we had or didn't have didn't really offer us what we needed to feel that self worthiness and to feel empowered and to feel maybe even loved. So it's a very common thread that you're sharing here. Very familiar story. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're dead on. It's like, I think 20 years ago we got to the point where we're like, you know what, we can't blame our parents.
No, they did the best they could. It sounds cliche, but really, with what the tools they had, what they knew, the awareness of those times, they really did the best that they could. Just like
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, and I agree with that 100%. The problem, I think, is we stop there.
Yeah,
we go, oh well, they did the best they could, so I can't blame them, and then we try to go about our lives, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's cool that you're not blaming them and you're dead on with that thinking. That's a good idea. However, there's still this person inside that didn't get what they needed for some reason. It doesn't have to be anybody's fault. You still didn't get what you needed. And That's what needs the repair. That's what needs the healing,
Great point. Great point. So for yourself, because you're aware now, which the point of power comes from that awareness, I believe. So you became aware of where you're at, and you found this healing and all. So for the guy that you are now, the empowered Glenn you are now, what could you share with our viewers that would be helpful for them, whatever state or phase that they're in, that they could find that place of healing, that place of balance, or just start their journey into that road of recovery, so to speak?
Well, I think it's kind of two-part. One is responsibility, but even before that, there's this little fundamental thing that I like to share. And it seems that like a lot of times we look at people who fit into society well, and we go, boy, they've got it together. They're good. I'm bad. They're correct. I'm wrong. And the way that I look at it, a lot of the people who have suffered early on in life in one shape or form like this, it seems to me that it's kind of a symptom of our refusal to forget our truth. Yeah. So it's like we come into this world and we know what's true. And then all of a sudden we're being domesticated by this, oh, you need to achieve and even little things when we're babies, like, no, don't eat when you're hungry, eat when it's dinner time, and we start creating this disconnection. And I think a lot of people who struggle, like me, to fit into society, I struggled against it because there was this part of me that just kept going, I don't think they're right. I think everything's love or something. I don't know, but I just don't think they're right. And it was my refusal to let go of my truth that really caused a lot of the suffering and the struggle that I had with society. And then when I finally woke up, I was like, oh my God, thank God I didn't let go of my truth fully. Thank God I didn't drink the Kool-Aid and start living society's way. I mean, yeah, it was painful for 20 years, but it's worth it for where I am now.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of like a mindset that I like to throw out there. And, action wise, I think it's, one of the biggest things is responsibility.
Yeah.
You got to take responsibility for your life. And most people, when you first start doing that, the problem is, and the difficulty is that we look at it and we go, wait a minute, like, no, life was happening to me. And I'm saying, no, it's happening for you. It's always been pushing you towards your awakening. It wants you to be happy.
Yeah.
So there's two sides of every coin. There's the yin and the yang in this earthly plane. So when we're taking responsibility for our lives and we look back and we go, okay, it wasn't my parents' fault. And we look back and we go, okay, maybe I was kind of a jerk to that teacher. Or maybe they are singling me out, but I can rise above that. Or, whatever the situation, when we start taking responsibility for our lives and going, okay, I did play a part. Maybe it's small, maybe it's large, but I did play a part in the misery that I've created in my own life in most situations. In most situations we did. And that's a difficult pill to swallow, but it makes it really easier when you look at the other side of it. And the other side of that coin is that you get the empowerment that comes with it. When I started understanding that all my screw ups were my responsibility, all of a sudden at the same time, I was understanding that I didn't do better because I didn't know better. And so I'm not to blame. I just didn't know any better. Now that I know better, I can create whatever life I want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's empowering. And, that's an energy that's tough to beat. Empowerment, It's got happiness, joy, enthusiasm all tied in. And when you start feeling that empowerment and hope for the future, that's when you really take off, I think.
Yeah. Great points. And I like to discern the difference between taking responsibility, because taking something, you're taking something outside of you, and being responsible. So it's a matter of being responsible was where I find that the real power comes from. And that's a great insight. So thanks for sharing that. And I will just so people know, you mentioned the 5 Love Languages, which is a really great book by Gary Chapman. It's just a way really of communicating, because we really don't communicate well for the most part. And I will say that it's a blanket statement, but really we're not taught communications. So it's learning how to listen really to what other is saying, and discerning, like, hey, because we go through the filters of what we know and what we want and what we believe is the best for ourselves and for everybody else. But that's not necessarily true. Like you said, this is my truth before. Yes, everybody has their own truth. So it's a matter of figuring out what this other person wants and what they need, and finding a happy place in between, that they could understand what your wants and needs are, and vice versa. So that's one very good book to check out. So that's another thing I also like to really discuss is communication. Because communication is so key. If we can't really effectively communicate with somebody else, then there's so much discourse that goes on, and so many things happen, especially like today we use the texting and the emails. And I find, especially with texting, the syntax and it's not always, it doesn't come through necessarily how you always mean it, and I find that miscommunication can be hard sometimes. So what's your feelings about having like really crystal clear, or as close to crystal clear communications with whoever you're engaging with, and the power that comes with that, and how that works in your life?
Yeah, well, I think you're again right on. The communication is huge, and the dynamics that are basically normal, we'll call out in everyday life, is really attack, defend, attack, defend, attack, defend. That's just how conversation goes. As you're saying your point, the other person is trying to figure out how they're going to combat your point and make their point. So it's, I think the first thing that we need to do is break through that, and the best way to break through that is really lowering other people's defenses. So I tell people, if you want to go communicate, especially in a situation that is gentle or an awkward conversation or a difficult conversation, the first thing you got to do is lower their defenses. So, like if you're in a relationship with somebody, to open the conversation, it needs to be like, listen, I really love you. And my whole goal in talking to you right now is to try to connect with you in a way that we can really feel the love for one another and really, get past whatever's in front of us. The only reason I want, so I don't, that's my whole goal of this conversation. I want you to be able to feel that love that I have for you, because I really love you a lot, and I want you to feel that. And I know right now you're not.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, right. Now all of a sudden they're sitting there, they're all pissed off at you, right? And they want to kind of attack. And then you say that. And it's like, all of a sudden their defense is lower, and they're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I'm not under attack. I was just told that I was loved 4 times, and that their main goal is that they want me to feel that the love that they have for them. Oh, now all of a sudden their mind opens, the defenses are down, and they can actually receive some of the information that you're trying to get. But that's the first thing is people aren't open to receiving information. So how are they supposed to get it? So the first thing we need to do is lower that defense mechanism and open them up so they're capable of receiving.
Right. So you're saying, what I'm hearing is expressing your intentions, which are, and it truly has to be coming from the heart, that I really do love you, and I do want to listen to what you have to say, and I want to have this connection with you, and I empathize with what's going on with you.
Right. And you can do that in any situation. If it's a teacher, don't tell your teacher you love them.
Well,
but you can't.
That doesn't ensure an A, that's for sure.
Right. So what you want to do in that situation is look at for the outcome that you both want, because as humans we can connect on our commonalities. We both want the same thing. We both want peace. We both want safety. We both want love. We both want simpatico. We just want to get along. So meet whoever you're talking to there. If it's a teacher, be like, I know that, our relationship, it's been difficult, and I'm not giving you what you want. And I want to be able to give you what you want, because then I get a good grade and I'm not a pain in your ass. So we both win. And that's what I want, So if you kind of, you kind of let people know what the goal of the conversation is, and that they're not being attacked, and you're not, that's what you want out of it. It can really lower their defenses.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. So, and it always reminds me of, like, we really need to find that place of healing in ourselves to be able to really open up to actually offer that, and as well as to receive that. So in your life, what would you like to offer the viewers, ways that you have found to be effective to find that healing?
A lot of it was really taking responsibility for my life, and embracing that empowerness. And there's an aspect. What I do is, whenever I'm feeling angry or irritable or frustrated about a situation, the first thing that I kind of set like a red flag. So as soon as I'm feeling uncomfortable feelings, it's a red flag that goes up. And, generally it's like, okay, you're looking at this wrong, Glenn. Because there's a healthy way to look at life in every situation. There's a healthy way. And if you really set the mindset that life is happening for me instead of life is happening to me, you can really start seeing, what's necessary in that situation. So, that's the first thing that I do, is just go, okay, I'm feeling, we're intellectual beings. So what happens is, if something happens and we process it in a way that we deem it negative, then it triggers the emotion within us. And then that emotion, we feel all that anger or whatever. So if we sit there and we go, that's the, in this society, we're used to treating the symptom. So we go, oh, I feel angry. What do I need to do about that? Well, that's a symptom. What's causing it is the way you're processing the information coming in. So that's the cause. So if we treat the cause instead of the symptom, we're going to have more luck. So if you shift, I just take the situation and I shift it and I go, what lesson is there in this for me? How can I become stronger, better, more empowered through this? How can I look at it in a way that it doesn't generate negative emotions in me? Then I adopt that as my new belief system. And sometimes I have to actually sit there and feel the emotion that it conjured up before I did that to allow it to release too. So I'm not stuffing it, you know?
Yeah. Great point. Great point. And I love that you said you have to feel, because, really generally men think more than they feel. I mean, feeling is more of is a natural and innate trait of women, that the sacred feminine, as it's called. And men, we're builders, we're fixers. We like to just solve problems, like also do it. And we don't always feel. And our partners really appreciate, our being a lot more when we actually start feeling more and stop trying to fix everything from an intellectual standpoint. There's a time and place, obviously, to have those conversations and all, but it's the feeling that really, I think, brings us together with our partners a lot more. And it's not for men anyway, it's usually not an innate quality for us. So I'm glad that you brought that up about feeling and all. And also, I like the fact that you acknowledge that you get angry. I mean, I've had so many situations like, anger. You know what? Anger is not inherently a bad thing. It's a way to express yourself, get your emotions out. And of course, it's, you don't want to be violent ever or hurt anybody with your words. But again, it's speaking your truth with a compassionate tone and way, and but getting that out, because there is something that is known as healthy anger, so, and you could vent that anger out at the gym or through meditation or through journaling or through hitting a heavy bit, whatever it is, and then approaching whatever the situation is with a more, maybe level and balanced way of being. But it's not inherently a bad thing. So I'm glad you brought that up about anger.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, it's just our emotions are there they're just messengers. It's supposed to give us a message. Hey, you might not want to, if you feel something negative, the message is you might not want to keep repeating this. So if you feel happiness, then the message is, hey, you might want to do more of this, So it's just a messenger. And really, like an emotion that's triggered by a normal situation. Big situations can be more than this, of course, but a normal day-to-day situation is only about 20 to 30 seconds worth of emotion. So what happens is when that we've proven all this stuff scientifically, our thoughts are a unit of energy, which transmutes into an emotion, which is a unit of energy, about 20 to 30 seconds worth. So if we sit there and we just go, like I use the getting cut off at an intersection example, you get cut off and you go, oh my God, and you get all freaked out and you might get mad for a minute or scared, whatever. And then all of a sudden you just sit there and you go, okay, it's over. I'm safe. And the first thing I do is handle the mind. And I go, hey, maybe they were on their way to a hospital. Maybe they looked down to turn the radio station. I've done that before, So I change the thing that's triggering the anger by the way I'm looking at it. And then I go to the anger and I go, okay, I've got this ball of energy inside of me called anger, and I need to feel it. So I go, what does it feel like? And I let go of the mental story and I focus on the physical sensation. And I go, okay, the anger, it feels like a tightness in my chest. Okay, now it's moving up into my temples. All right. And now it almost feels like it's releasing out the back of my head or neck, or, like it can be whatever sensation you actually are feeling, but you pay attention to the sensation and you let go of the story. And what happens is that emotion's job is to be felt. So when it's felt, it completed its job and it transmutes into a different form of energy and it's out of you. So that way you're not stuffing it. And, that way you can actually release it. I think, and you can do that with any situation. If you've got a lot stuffed down that you need to release, you can just go home, when nobody's around, grab a throw pillow. So if you need to scream into it so the cops don't get called, you can do that. And allow yourself to snot, bubble, cry, get it all out of you, you know? And then like when you're feeling it, the trick most people don't know is that they keep thinking about what's upsetting them. And if you keep thinking about what's upsetting you, you're replacing the anger or the upset feeling the same amount as you're releasing. Because your body doesn't know the difference whether you're thinking something or whether you're experiencing it. So if you the best way to not do that is to just think about the physical sensation. Oh, I'm feeling nausea. I'm feeling tightness in my chest. I'm feeling this. Oh, it's moving. Just pay attention to that. That way you're not creating more as it's released, you know? And I think that's really a good way for people who have some stored anger or upset negative energy within them to release it on their own terms instead of waiting until, you know, somebody leaves the toilet seat up. You know?
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a really great point. So thanks for sharing that. I like to say emotions buried alive never die. So you could stuff it down, but it's going to come out one way or the other, sometime or the other, maybe, you know, 10 minutes or maybe in 10 years, and you might not even know what it is at that time. So it's really good to address whatever those emotions are, especially the anger, but that's true all across the board. You know, if you're feeling love and joy, express it to the person. If you're feeling, you know, anger, if you're feeling disconnect, whatever it is to get it out, because it doesn't go away. And those are the things that actually, it's proven, physically make us ill. So it's getting those things out and in the best way that you know how. Again, it's not always easy. It's easy for me to say, hey, use compassion. It's not always easy to use compassion. It's not your first thought, just like you're saying with being on the road. Hey, most of us have done that. And I find it so interesting. It's like, why is that? You know, I'll speak for myself because I've been there many times. Why is that like one of the first places we go? Just like you're saying, hey, you know, maybe this person is like experiencing having a bad day, or maybe it's an elderly person. Like it. So I like to think like, hey, maybe that's my mom in the car. It's my grandfather in the car. So how, you know, is it really that important for me to rush around them or beep the horn or like, you know, no, it's not. You know, that's really, I think it aids all of us when we could just take a deep breath and say, hey, this is going to be okay. Like envision yourself, you know, in that situation. And wouldn't you like to have a little compassion? Maybe you're lost, you know, oh my God. And really, if you think about it, it's literally seconds before we're on the horn or giving them the finger. I mean, what is that? What does that say about us as individuals? So it's like, you know, take a deep breath and breathe into it. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think, I don't know, you tell me your experiences with this. I believe it's all stories that we tell ourselves. So it's usually these emotions are connected to something else, usually something from our past. And we make up these stories that we think serve us, you know, so we justify being angry or not showing or expressing the love to the person, you know, that's important in our life or whatever it is, because of these stories that we may not even be conscious of. But that's really like the cycle of dysfunction that many of us go through. So please share your experiences with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's, you know, that this is why I think, you know, mindfulness and you know, and presence is being taught so much right now, because it's, you know, our brain is basically a computer. It's not capable of creative thought. You know, creative thought comes in moments of stillness. So, you know, all our brain is capable of doing is spitting out information based on the information that was put into it. So what happens is when we're experiencing life, where, you know, we have all these experiences, and like what I say is it's kind of like our personality mixed with our experiences. So like when we're a kid, if, you know, little Susie takes our crayon, she does that to two kids. Well, one kid is losing his mind. He's like, oh my God, Susie took my crayon. Somebody else goes, you know, I wanted to use green anyway. And they just go on. So everybody processes information differently based on their personality and also other things that they've experienced. So we have billions of those things packed upon each other. And it's all stored in a database in our brain. And what it does is it creates a reaction. When this situation comes in, this is what I spit out. and it's completely unconscious and it's reactionary. That's why something I call the sacred pause can be so helpful, especially in the beginning of a spiritual walk. It's just take that. Sometimes it can be a half a second, because in your brain, a half a second is longer than a half a second. It's just enough to break that instant reaction. Information in, this is what I do, comes out. So just as much as you can implement that pause in between information coming in and then what you decide to do, you find yourself taking a lot more conscious action, and you actually decide what to do instead of just reacting based on past experiences. And you can do that in very quick situations, in conversations. A lot of, like, I've actually had people where I was in the middle of a conversation with them, and they asked me a question, and I paused for a moment. I mean, literally for like 2 seconds to think of the answer, to give them a thoughtful, comment back. And they were like, they started talking again. Like there was something wrong with their question. We're so programmed that we need to just go, 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 go. You stop talking, my turn to talk. It's like, wait a minute, let's just slow down and actually think for just 3 seconds, 2 seconds about what I'm going to say in response. It's okay. So we can slow down a lot of things to regain control of our lives if our lives are kind of out of control because of this type of thing. I learned to say things like, hey, when do you need to know by? Can I get back to you on that?
Yeah.
Most things we don't need to give people answers right away. And it teaches us to slow down and actually give a thoughtful response in more situations.
Yeah.
So I think, that's kind of what I try to teach around that,
Yeah, that's powerful, man. That's very powerful. And some really good points there. And that goes back to also the stories that we tell ourselves. So those are good tips to bust out of that mold and to change our stories. And for me, one of the things that I like to really put out there for the guys or for anybody to change our stories is not everybody's always positive. Okay, maybe we're not always positive, right? Positivity, man, it's one of the most powerful things that we could do. And just like you were saying, sharing these stories, it's a choice. It's the way we look at things. So you could choose to be like, oh, this sucks, and he did this or she did that, and like, why me? Like you're saying, you choose to be, life is working for you, not against you. So why not choose positivity? Because I'm telling you, I mean, it works in my life. Whenever the poop hits the fan, I find the positivity in it, and it's not just a little BS thing to do. It actually really works. It changes, even scientifically, it changes the body chemistry and keeps us healthier and all. And I never really liked that saying, fake it till you make it, but you know what? It works. So even if you're not a positive person or you don't like spreading the love or spreading the positivity, my father, may he rest in peace, always used to say, why do you always say that? I'm like, spread the love, spread the love. He's like, yeah, spread the love. But honestly, why not? So if that's what it takes to say or to do, to be, spread the love or spread the positivity, it really makes a difference. And they say after 21 days, whether it's dieting or doing something like this, saying positive affirmations and all, after 21 days, you reprogram your brain, you reprogram down to a cellular level. So I invite people to do that, whether it's being positive or spreading the love or whatever you want to change in your life. Commit to 21 days and watch what happens after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reality of the situation. And it's, a lot of times our ego will trap us and go, well, it's not going to work anyway. It's not going to. And if we really look at that, what our ego does is it tries talking us out of doing things that are good for us. And the way it does it is it says, well, don't do that because you're going to suffer. You're going to feel bad. If you do that, it won't work and you'll feel bad. But it's telling us that it's trying to protect us from feeling bad when we're already feeling bad. What sense does that make? So it's like, well, I don't want you to feel bad, so I'm going to just leave you here feeling bad instead of trying something different. So, I mean, take that 21-day challenge because, at the end of it, like they say in recovery, we'll gladly refund your misery.
There you go.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you try it for 21 days and nothing happens, worst case scenario, you're at the same place you are now. So you might as well try it. You literally have nothing to lose, you know? And
Yeah.
they have proven all that scientifically. You know, you literally rewire neural pathways into your brain. So when the information comes in, it goes to a neighborhood of neural pathways. And if that neighborhood's negative, you're going to be having negative thoughts. You're going to have, which trigger negative emotions. But if you experience this or practice this positivity, and little by little you reinforce that, all of a sudden that information comes in, it goes to a different neighborhood. And now all of a sudden you get positive thoughts and things like that. So, it literally does change your makeup, and your perception is your reality. How you interact with life is based on your perspective. It's not based on reality like we think it is.
Yeah.
I saw that very clearly like 15, 16 years ago. I went to bed and my whole life was falling apart. Debt collectors, you name it, everything was falling apart. And when I woke up the next morning, something had happened to me. And I was like, man, it's going to be a great day. And the grass looked greener. And I was like, wasn't I freaked out last night?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. I was like, well, what was I freaked out about? And I was like, oh, the bill collector, the car, my son, this, that. And I was like, well, so I'll get a job. I've gotten jobs before. I'll pay off the debt. I've been in debt before. All of a sudden I was looking at the exact same problems from a perspective of hope rather than of defeat. And that's when I really saw it clearly. It was like, my situations didn't change at all overnight, but my perspective did. And how I felt inside and the way I thought changed based on my perspective. And it was amazing,
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because it's so true. Our perceptions create our reality. So that's, again, leading it in the perfect example of supporting that attitude of gratitude and putting that positivity out there. It's the same situation, but you change your whole perspective, the whole dynamic, and I'm sure it was a great day, right? Just because you decided it's going to be a great day. So it's a conscious choice. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Before I forget, I want to give you the opportunity to offer what you're going to be offering to the audience. Glenn has got a generous offer for us, so I want to take this time to give you the opportunity to share that with the audience.
Yes. So, I was thinking about, the different things that I could offer, and, Life Lessons in Laughter is a very popular podcast that's all over the place and all over the world, thankfully. But, so that's out there, and I'm like, what can I really give people that, they don't normally have access to? So what I have is a video and audio recording of a live Q&A that I did with some of my people. And it was wonderful, because you get not only my perspective, but then you get other perspectives of other people, and you get, just a live interaction aspect. And I thought that was going to be the best way for people to really connect and identify, and I mean, even see how I work in a live situation. So that's what I'm offering, a live Q&A that I have recorded on video for them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Glenn. I'm sure it's going to be wonderful and very valuable for people who take that opportunity. So before we wrap up for the day, I want to ask you if there's anything that you would like to leave the audience with, any kind of pearls of wisdom, again, with the intention to help and to heal and to find, growth and potential in their lives. What would you like to wrap up with for the people?
Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me and putting this whole summit together. I mean, putting information out there that's what we got to do. And that's, like I said, my Life Lessons in Laughter is out there. That's what it does. And the more we can put it out there, the better. So thank you for that. Thank you for this. So we all appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's really just a matter of hope. I was talking with as you can see, I don't have anything prepared, but that's how I like it.
It's real, man. It's real.
Yeah, it's real. And you know, I was just talking with a friend of mine the other day, and he's kind of in a tough time. And I was talking with him about it, and he said, you know, what really helps me is that I look at you, Glenn, and like he used to hang out with me back in the day where we were partying and getting in trouble and going through some crap too. And he was like, you know, it really gives me hope understanding that you've been there. And I'm thinking, you know, what, is Glenn better than me? Of course he's not. He's just a regular guy that went through all this stuff. And I think that that's the biggest piece. You know, we have to understand that there is certainly nothing special about me. It's just, you know,
You are special.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, in certain ways, but we all have things that are special inside of us. But like, I didn't wake up and have the capability of living a happy, healthy life and because of some unique thing. You know, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, and you go ask some of my old friends, they will testify to this. You know, when I still go back and run into somebody that used to know me before, they're like, you got it? If you can get it, anybody can get it, because you were a mess, man. You know, so it's really, you know, don't get caught up in that, what they call terminal uniqueness. You're not that unique. We're all the same. We all have that seed inside of us that can blossom into whatever, you know, whatever is needed to make a mighty oak is contained within the seed. And we're all seeds, and we all have what it takes to become the best version of ourselves within us. We just need to walk around a little bit and kind of cultivate the soil so that seed can blossom, because it's just waiting for it, you know, so anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's great words of wisdom, and I like the visual too. Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to thank you for taking your time to be with us here today, Glenn, and to share your stories and your vulnerability and your wisdom, and really, my pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure too. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I hope the intention comes through to you people to see the beautiful heart of this man, Glenn, and to hear his sharings and his offerings. And be sure to click the button below this video to get Glenn's generous offer. And until next time, continue to illuminate your path with loving kindness. Namaste.
Namaste.